Hey hockey coaches, parents, and youth hockey players. Coach Garner here. In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to regress exercises. A lot of youth hockey players, they might not be ready for certain movements yet. Bodyweight training is hard, and a lot of people find that out. Performing well-executed push-ups and split squats and squat variations and lunges, especially for the reps I prescribe to make sure you become a better hockey player, it can be incredibly difficult to go through the full range of motion, and it requires a lot more strength than some people initially expect. So what they need to do is regress a certain exercise. When you progress an exercise, you make it harder. That's when you move from, say, a push-up to a one-arm push-up. That would be a progression. A regression is to still target the same musculature, but do it in an easier way so you can slowly build yourself up to performing the exercise that was prescribed. I do this typically in a 2-point way. Number one is simply just to reduce the range of motion. It is okay to reduce the range of motion, okay? So if a youth hockey player is struggling doing full push-ups, that's fine. They can do this to start. And then once they start getting stronger, maybe you try and go here. And then when they start getting more stronger, maybe then you start doing full push-ups. It's okay to reduce the range of motion on all of the exercises that I've prescribed in the youth hockey training program. If it's push-ups, if it's squats, if it's lunges, if it's split squats, it's okay to reduce the range of motion, get them strong within that working range of motion, and then slowly just try and increase it at a rate that the youth hockey player is comfortable with on a week-to-week basis. That's one thing that you can do. Then, once you get to the point where you've reduced range of motion but slowly built them up to a full range of motion, even when they get to the full range of motion, they're not going to be able to perform all of the reps that I've required. So let's say, for example, I have a youth hockey player who is prescribed to do 3 sets of 15 of push-ups, right? But they've just finally, now they're able to do full push-ups. They've worked their way up through the last phase or last 2 or 3 phases through doing smaller range of motion, and now they're able to do full range of motion, but they can only do 3 push-ups. They can only do 4 push-ups. They can only do 5 push-ups. So they can now they're strong enough to do full push-ups, but they're not strong enough to do 15 full push-ups. What do I do then? That's no problem. This is the 2nd point progression. This is when you move into something called rest pause training. A rest pause means you take a quick pause for rest during the set and not after the set. So how it works is you do as many as you can, rest only 15 seconds, and then go back at it. And then rest only 15 seconds and go back at it. So let's say you had, let's keep the same example, a youth hockey player doing a set of 15 for push-ups, but they can only do 5. What they would do is do 5 push-ups, rest 15 seconds. Do another 5 push-ups, rest 15 seconds, do another 5 push-ups, and then do your actual rest period, because at that point, you've done the full 15 reps to equate to 1 set. All right, so that's typically the 2-point regression that you would do to build a youth hockey player up. Number one, it's okay to use limited range of motion while you build them up. And then once they are built up, you move into rest pause training to ensure you get all the reps of a particular set. Now, understanding those 2-point progressions, that's what you would do anytime you can. But if you can't even do limited range of motion, it's going to be very rare, but if you can't even do that, then that's also totally okay. It is totally fine to, number one, go to the exercise substitution library that I've provided for you and pick an easier exercise to do. Or, number 2, make changes to the exercise to ensure that they can perform it. So instead of doing push-ups with limited range of motion, do knees down push-ups. Then they take a significant amount of stress off the musculature while still working the same one to slowly build them up. What if they're not strong enough for knees down push-ups? That's okay. Move to wall presses. they're going to do pressing off the wall. And that's 100% of youth athletes are going to be able to do wall presses. And then when they get strong enough in wall presses, they move to knees down push-ups. When they get strong enough to knees down push-ups, then they do actual push-ups for limited range of motion. And then you slowly build up their limited range of motion until they can do rest pause. And then when they're ready to do rest pause, then you do rest pause sets till they complete their whole sets. And eventually you have them as strong as they need to be. You're not going to be able to go through, you're not going to have to go through this complicated process for every single movement, but I just wanted to give you some ideas in case you do need to regress, okay? Limited range of motion is fine. Rest pause sets are totally fine. And also changing the exercise completely and just making sure you're still working the same muscles is also completely fine before you do any of that stuff. Always just let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. Make sure you look at the exercise substitution guide. If you're not finding what you need, contact me at support@hockeytraining.com.